Hey folks, how's it going? This is Iron Seagull here, back with another discussion video, because for a while I've been wanting to make a video about a specific issue I have with The Sims 4's world, more specifically the newer ones. And it's not just the fact that, oh, we don't get many lots with them these days, though they do feed into a bigger problem where these worlds feel like they contradict themselves in a way, because you have a small number of lots, but then with the explorable space outside the lots, they're pretty massive. Having so much area to explore sounds great on paper, and I think the reason they are doing this is to try and have the game feel a bit more open world, because so many people miss that from The Sims 3. But then when you actually explore some of these newer worlds, you tend to notice that there's just really not a whole lot of activity going on. It doesn't feel all that alive. Most of the Sims you see running around here in this footage of San Sequoia are actually assigned to run various cash registers that I've placed around to act as like pop-up stores with the tool mod. So then you don't really see that many Sims just relaxing and walking around. Even that piano that's normally supposed to have a street pianist, it's not always a Sim there. Sometimes there just isn't one that spawns at all. With worlds like Henford on Bagley, it's fine because, well, it's supposed to be a rural town. There aren't supposed to be that many Sims around anyways, especially in the countryside areas. But when you're walking around places like San Sequoia, that's inspired by a really busy place like the Bay Area, then it would be more realistic if there were a lot more Sims walking around, but it just doesn't happen. You can have the lots themselves be decently populated, but not as many Sims just walking around. Earlier on in The Sims 4, I never really noticed this because the public spaces tended to be pretty small, but then when we started getting worlds, especially like San Sequoia and Tomarang and even Copperdale, I was like, oh, yeah, this feels a little weird that there's just not many Sims walking around, and I realized, oh, okay, yeah, when you do compare it to the smaller worlds like Willow Creek where the areas are so small, then there's not as much area that these Sims need to be distributed across. So then, in a weird way, in one way, the base game worlds feel a bit more alive than the more recent ones. It also helps that all the base game worlds are meant to be more suburban, just that classic Sims feel. So with these suburban neighborhoods, it's not like there's always supposed to be tons of Sims walking around all the time. Yeah, have a few Sims walking around, but it doesn't really feel detrimental to not have like tons of Sims all the time here. It is too bad that you don't see your neighbors actively walking in and out of their houses, like if they're going to work or maybe even visiting other neighbors, but that's more of a technical problem I have with the whole game and not just the newer worlds. It could also explain why so many of the newer worlds that we've been getting are rural, because then you can get away with the same thing. Like, you can have bigger open spaces than what Willow Creek has, but since with the atmosphere that they're going for, it's not meant to be heavily populated, then they can still get away with that. But I think they can still do urban areas, but still manage to have them feel really alive, and they've proved this with San Myshuno in City Living. Like here you can see GeekCon going on in the fashion district, and there's a good number of Sims walking around enjoying all the various activities. But even outside of the festival grounds, it is still decently populated, and I think that does have a lot to do with how San Myshuno's areas, save for the Central Park area, are also pretty small. When City Living first came out, I wasn't really a huge fan of it, even though I realized, okay, like it is meant to be more close quarters, especially with apartments being a main feature. I was still wishing we could explore even more of the city, but especially after playing Tamarang, I do have some newfound appreciation for San Myshuno. Like, even here in this footage, when there's not a festival currently going on, it's still decently populated. When we were about to get Tamarang in for rent, I was thinking, oh hey, finally! We can have another world kind of like San Myshuno, where it does have more of that city feel, especially after all those rural worlds that we've been getting, because San Sequoia still kind of missed the mark for me in that regard. Like, it does feel kind of like a city, but you don't get to see the downtown area. You get close to it, but for the most part, it is still suburban, but bigger areas than what Willow Creek, Oasis Springs, and Newcrest have. But then when I actually got to play for rent, I realized pretty quickly that, hey, even the city center does feel very sparsely populated. The night market is a little bit better, but not by a whole lot. Tamarang is supposed to be inspired by Southeast Asia, and you do have some very populated cities with tons of people driving around and on bikes and walking, but then here in Tamarang, you don't have cars driving through the vast majority of this area, and not as many Sims walking around either, so it feels almost eerie in a way. You have such a small amount of lots, so it's not taking up as many resources, but then you have still what's implied to be a very heavily populated area, yet you see hardly anyone walking around most of the time. If there was some kind of lore where it's like, oh hey, actually most of the Sims living in these places have already died and the world is repopulating, then I could somewhat buy it. It'd be like a post-apocalyptic world, but not right after that apocalypse has happened, but some years later when things have started to recover. But obviously that's not the direction that they're going for with The Sims. Maybe that could be some kind of interesting spin-off game, but I don't think that's ever gonna happen. There is also one other thing that has increased alongside these bigger areas, and that's the amount of rabbit holes we've been getting in these newer worlds, like the caves that we've had in For Rent and Horse Ranch, or the movie theater in Growing Together, and the many rabbit hole instances of Journey to Batu, or what I actually like to call Journey to Rabbit Holes. So those I don't think really make up for it, because even though they can be nice if you're controlling a massive household and you just want one or two of them to go off and do something fun for a while without having you to worry about their needs, it still just doesn't really do it for me. It's not as fun as actually getting to explore a new area with new gameplay objects and such. It's like you're bringing back the cons of The Sims 3's open world without reintroducing all of the pros. So what's the solution to all this? I think they just need to be more considerate going forward of what types of worlds they want to make. Because if they do want to make more rural ones like Henford-on-Bagley and Moonwood Mill, then I think it is okay to stick to bigger areas. But if they do want to make areas that are meant to be more populated, then we should not get more worlds like Tamarang. We should get more like San Myshuno, where even though it sucks on paper to have like, oh, going back to smaller areas like the earlier worlds, at least they can try to make those smaller areas feel more populated. They don't need to have festivals like what San Myshuno has, though it would be nice if we did get festivals as good as those again to just add more life and culture to the place. But they've proved they can strike a good balance, so it'd be nice if they managed to do that again. I think the new roadmap is hinting at a new world that we'll get with the upcoming Flirtatious expansion pack, and if we have 3 neighborhoods with this, then I think 2 of them will be more quaint. One might have more of like a town square, like where that fountain is, but then one of them would be more of a city center. So hopefully then that one will feel more like San Myshuno and not as empty as San Sequoia or Tamarang. It definitely is strange having this contradictory set of problems with The Sims 4's worlds, where they say that, oh, because of performance reasons, they need to give us fewer lots in newer worlds, but then they give us these bigger areas, and then it still ends up not being the best thing because they feel mostly lifeless. But The Sims 4 is what it is at this point. I don't actually have that much hope that they will strike a better balance with future worlds, but maybe with Project Renee, then they could have a better chance of striking a better balance of having worlds that are decent size, but still have them decently populated. Project Renee is still supposed to be years out, and The Sims 4 first came out nearly 10 years ago, so computers in general are more powerful now than they were back then, so they should have more room to make the worlds feel more lived in. But that's pretty much all I have to say for now, so feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Are you satisfied with how The Sims 4's worlds are being done now, or do you think that there is room for improvement, that they could be done differently? And be sure to subscribe if you'd like to keep up with my latest gaming content. I will talk to you all later, and have a great day. Thanks for watching!